All right, let's begin. Let's begin. This video is about another book by Byung-Chul. This one is called Saving Beauty. Saving Beauty. This is the cover. The translator of this work, unlike most of the previous works that I discussed by Han, this one is translated to English by Daniel Steuer. The other major translator is Eric Butler. And you do detect a slight shift in style when you move from one translator to another, but it's not major. It's not a huge factor in at least my reading experience. The other work by Han that I think these two works go hand in hand. The other work that is related to Saving Beauty most closely, I think, is The Agony of Eros. The Agony of Eros is about love, human relationships, the way people relate to each other. Saving Beauty is about how more generally people relate to what they consider to be beautiful, including other people, but also including works of art. So it is basically about how and why we consider things to be beautiful and how we need to broaden that scope. As usual, it is Han. He is criticizing, he's engaging in a wide-ranging critique of cultural practices, cultural patterns of thinking and relating, including our failures to have genuine relationships with the outside world and get out of this egoistic, narcissistic self-relation that we think is relating to other things. So he's getting into a general critique of culture. This time, with this book, he's entering into his general critique of culture through aesthetics, through how we think about beauty and including works of art. What Han criticizes more than anything else is when we mistake beauty with pleasure. So that is the big mistake, and it's connected to lots of other bad things. When we think that what is beautiful and what deserves the label beautiful is supposed to necessarily give us pleasure, to please us, that is the demand that we tend to place on beautiful objects. Otherwise, if they're not pleasing us, they are not beautiful. And that is a deep misunderstanding. So again, the expectation is for the beautiful thing to ease our nerves, to ease the nerves and please the nerves, if you like. You need that kind of anesthetic experience. In that description, we are requiring from the objects of beauty not to bother us, essentially, not to shock us, not to surprise us, not to demand anything from us. So when I used to play guitar, I used to play classical guitar very seriously when I was young, and I was living with my family. I had family members who always would ask me, play that song, play that one particular song that I like, play that song. And that insistence always annoyed me. It really annoyed me because I wanted to share what I was working on at the time. I wanted to share with them what was a little bit more challenging, a little bit new for me. And I wanted them to be patient and to learn to enjoy something else, something other than what they already know they enjoy. So that is related to what Han is criticizing, because it's possible for us to associate beauty with lots of things other than pleasure. Beauty is associated with truth. It is associated with discovery, with learning to include something else in our category of the beautiful, to expand our category. With commitment, what is beautiful demands from us to be committed to it. And that structures, as Han describes in more detail, that structures are the way we live through time. Now, okay, going back to that mindset of, I know what pleases me, just give me that. We live in a time that each person has their own taste, their existing taste, and each person has their own selection of things that pleases them, pleases and eases their nerves. And those things become, for each person, part of their identity, part of the profile that they put out there in the world. They announce to the world on social media, this is what I like. These are the books that I like. These are the works of art that I like. And so recognize me as the person who enjoys these things. So we want to establish predictable identities. And we use these identities and attach to these tastes to introduce ourselves to other people. Like I'm the kind of person who likes to read Susan Sontag. Sorry, I mean Colleen Hoover. I like to be pleased and eased with Hoover's work. Now, see, it doesn't even matter if I say Sontag or Colleen Hoover. The problem is with establishing it and fixing it. That's the problem. That's the problematic way of relating to what we consider to be good or beautiful. Because we are predetermining what it is that we want from the beautiful objects and our experiences with beautiful objects. We want those objects to be subordinated to our predictable patterns of pleasure seeking. The ultimate form of that pattern is pornography. Pornography is when beautiful things are caged and treated as tools for pleasure. Pleasure seeking, pleasure giving, whatever. It's predictable, it is fixed. The reason why art is not pornography is because art is free from predictable, previously established pattern of relationship. That is the spirit with which Han criticizes smoothness, smooth bodies, smooth objects, smooth faces that have passed the filters of Instagram and TikTok. They don't have any features that stand out of the framework of pleasure seeking and pleasure giving. So nothing, all the features that are unique, all the features that are individual, they are eliminated with the filters. So I'm touching on filters already. What else do filters do other than making things smooth? The other thing they do is that they separate us because they remove truth out of the equation of how we are relating to each other. They separate us. They separate us from the reality of each other, the fullness of that reality. And so they do separate us. The person who is always filtered and presenting themselves in a filtered way, they might have to continue to avoid facing other people as they really are, unfiltered. That movement towards separation is also what Han is identifying here and in other related works like The Agony of Eros. That movement towards isolation and separation and having too much control over how I think about you and how I present myself. That obsession with self-image and images. We end up getting more and more distant until there is only one isolated mind inside a predictable private universe, basically stuck in an autoerotic form of life, stuck in a masturbatory form of life. A piece of art is likely to give us pause by contrast. And if we really allow ourselves to encounter it, just like if we allow ourselves to really encounter somebody else, if we don't get into what we already know, like the small talk, our predictable forms of maybe flirtation, our predictable forms of pleasing other people, being nice to other people, and letting other people being nice to us. If we get out of those predictable patterns and just simply be there, the piece of art in that similar way is designed to not be displeasing. It's not there to irritate and annoy us. No, it's there to invite us to linger and pause. And it's an invitation to get out of our own time course, the rhythm of our own mind, and see the time course of the object, see time according to the logic of the object, according to the logic of what is in front of us. In relation to this, Han brings in Hegel and Hegel's aesthetics. I really enjoyed that part. The part that I didn't like as much was the chapter on veiling, because Han's presentation of the topic of veiling and, the opposite of nudity, the opposite of being completely transparent, and beauty as something that is transparent and naked. The opposite of that is the idea of veiling and truth as something that involves veiling. It sounds as if he wants the artists or whoever is presenting beautiful objects, to actively veil something, to actively hide. So I wrote here, the note is my note. I'm just reading what I wrote at the top of this page. This chapter is weak because Han makes it seem as if there is an active veiling that is good and that makes the object beautiful, or that we create beauty by veiling. No. Instead, the way I think we should approach this topic is that there is an inescapable veiling. We cannot escape veiling as an aspect of beauty. The discovery of veiling as unavoidable, that's the issue. And that realizing that unveiling, complete and total unveiling, is a false promise. And it's that discovery and our helplessness when confronting it that has an aesthetic dimension. By contrast, unveiling is artificial. All right, so interesting book. I don't know if I would recommend it. Again, the two top picks for me from Han so far are The Burnout Society and Psychopolitics. Those had lots of unique material in them, and I think they're, for me, representative of his overall critique. But you might disagree with me. Each work might resonate differently with different readers. So I am interested in hearing what you have to say, what you think about Han's individual and overall body of work so far. And that's it for now. Information about my reading group is in the description of the video. That reading group is also a place for pause. It's, okay, let me just take 2 minutes to talk about this. I have seen lots of different people on the internet who offer courses and seminars on philosophy. And these courses, the way they are designed, they tend to be exhausting. They exhaust us. They exhaust people financially. They cost too much. And they exhaust people by giving them too much stuff, and by just at the outset saying, there's too much to read, you will never be good enough, so continue to pay me again. I have designed my reading group to be the opposite of those things. It's already enough. You already have to just, you don't even need to read the work. Just show up. If you haven't read the work that week, that month, maybe you won't say as much, but you still have something to say because you're listening to a conversation, ongoing conversation. And it doesn't cost that much. Anyways, open invitation, no pressure. That's it for the video. I'll speak with you in the future.